And hello, Hearts of Oak. Thanks so much for joining us once again. And it's great to have AJ Rice with us once again, discussing his fantastic new book and everything around that US side. AJ, thanks so much for your time today.
Brother Peter, great to be back. We just had a hell of an election. We had a holiday. We're feeling pretty good over here right now.
A lot happening, exciting, not only for you, but actually for the world. So we're looking forward to what Trump brings to actually freedom of speech right across the world, and Elon Musk and many other appointees. It is exciting times. But let this your book, White Privilege album, and there it is behind you, and there it is up on the screen. And this is a follow-up. And your first book was more looking at the issues, the topics. It was a more serious. This is a much more lighthearted book, and I guess it is the only way you can address the last 4 years with humor. Because if you don't look at it through a comical lens, it probably could be quite depressing as an American. But
Sure.
Tell me the book, how it came together. Let's just start with that.
Well, I know we've got some Beatles fans in this audience, so I just want to apologize to the Beatles for the name of the book. Not to Yoko, though. To hell with her. We're not apologizing to Yoko ever. She's probably wandering around Manhattan right now, mumbling to herself, standing outside the Met Gallery screaming. Look, tragedy plus time equals humor, right? Equals comedy, right? The ability to transform horror into humor. So The Woking Dead, which was my first book, there's plenty of jokes in there, but that was more of a sort of a macro reading of, and that came out in 2022 and was written prior to that. So it took sort of the last year of Trump's first term and then some of Biden. And, that was almost a scattershot of a lot of the different ways wokeism gets into the culture, gets into your, life, gets into your bank account. Whereas, and while I was promoting that, and even when I was doing this show 2 years ago, I had been crafting the White Privilege album but look, Shakespeare can do tragedy and comedy. Why can't I? Right. But I wanted to zero in on if there is a lot of flavors of wokeness, if there is a lot of different because it's a target-rich environment. Don't get me wrong. I mean, with what goes on in the culture, Western culture. So from Moscow to San Diego, you could rewrite this book almost every day, right? So, but I wanted to zero in on the racial element of, what took place, based on what happened here in the summer of George Floyd and the giant sort of Charlottesville lie, because the subtitle of the book is Bringing Racial Harmony to Very Fine People on Both Sides, which was the sort of foundational hoax that the media pushed, and I can't believe it's almost been 10 years now, that Trump is a racist, that ultra MAGA are racist, we're all white nationalists, Hitler, fascism. And it's hung around, this lie, this hoax. It hung around, even though it's been debunked, and not debunked by Rice and Peter, but debunked by the left, debunked by Michael Rappaport, debunked by Bill Maher, debunked by this Soros fact-checking organization called Snopes. I'm sure they love this show. And even, CBS News. And yet, the very fine people lie showed up at both presidential debates with Biden and then Kamala debating Trump. And Barack Obama's been running around the country using it. So I have to poke fun at this stuff. And I wanted to drill down with the White Privilege album into wokeism and race. What exactly are they talking about when they say check your privilege, or that's white privilege, or what the hell exactly it is? And also, getting into sort of a defense of a few things. The biggest thing, Western civilization, because in a lot of instances, when you hear people talking about white privilege, that's really what they're talking about. Yeah. They don't like it. And when I say Western civilization, I'm talking about Greco-Roman, Judeo-Christian civilization, which includes the Anglosphere, obviously, And it's funny. One of the book was called something else at one point. I got invited on a news station in the UK. And I don't know what kind of relationship you have with them, but it was GB News, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I've got some,
Yep.
I've got some friends over there.
Yep.
They put me on. This was after The Walking Dead came out. They put me on when the Queen died, and they put me on to defend the Queen, to defend the House of Windsor. Now, it's interesting because she was getting hammered here in the United States. She was getting hammered by our media, the crones on The View in particular, these women that have all been hit by the ugly stick that complain all day long, trying to trick the housewives of America into thinking that they've got some original take when they're just sort of Marxist left-wing puppets. You've got 5 women, supposedly 2 of them, or 6. I don't know. I can't keep track, right? Most of them should go make me a sandwich, but that's for another day. But there's supposedly 2 women there that, are Republicans, but they all voted for Biden and Harris. So there's no one really authentic there that gives any type of other side. And they were ripping the Queen. And they were saying, going on, oh, this is the Queen of the monarchy. And she was a monarchy built on white supremacy and racism and colonialism and all the isms, right? And I found it interesting. And I don't know whether you're friends with some of the guys over there, but Mark Dolan, who, I think has done stand-up comedy and gets a kick out of me. He got it in his head that he was going to put on across Great Britain an Irish Catholic loudmouth from Philadelphia to come on and defend the Queen of England. Okay? Post-mortem. And I did. Oh, I did. I burnt the house down. And I said, Mark, it's amazing. You were looking for, I don't think Great Britain was ready for an Irish Catholic guy from Philadelphia to defend the House of Windsor. But here I am. And I went to town on these women because here's the thing. Unlike the United States, and I don't live that far from some of these battles, I live in Virginia. Great Britain was able to end slavery, with a vote. Whereas we had to go to war for years, 600,000 deaths, North versus South. Whereas because of, William Wilberforce and some of the movements in Congress, Fox and some of these other guys, they were able, Great Britain was able to do this. I said, look, I don't know whether they know this, but they have a constitutional monarchy. These idiots have no idea that they have had representative government, for over 100 years. And for the last, at least during this woman, Elizabeth Windsor's lifetime, the crown, regardless of whether they're personally dysfunctional over the last 100 years, and there's been moments when they have been and moments where they haven't been, fine. But they're still standing, unlike, the Romanovs and, the French and everyone else. I said, they have given more charity and donated more money to medicine and literacy and fighting AIDS and fighting disease in Africa than any of these morons on The View in the United States. So if I were the House of Windsor, I would say you're welcome. You're welcome for bringing peace and prosperity on behalf of the British Crown everywhere. I said, now look, GB News people, I'm Irish Catholic. I'm not going to get into Bobby Sands, and I'm not going to get into this. I said, I'm not going to get into, De Valera and, Michael Collins with everyone here. But I will just tell you, this is what Western civilization is about, which is why on the back of the book, I say white privilege gave us Western civilization, the middle class, and the nuclear family. Yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome. And quite frankly, that's the name of the introduction. The name of the introduction is you're welcome. So from the royal crown to the rest of you idiots out there, you're welcome. Not just from the United Kingdom, but from Ireland and Italy and everywhere else. that has tried to bend the arc of progress towards justice, as the left tries to say. What I try to do with my books, both The Woking Dead, which just came out in paperback, by the way, it's doing very well, and the White Privilege album, is I'm trying to bend the arc of progress and justice away from wokeism. And I think what just went on in this election was kind of a woke Waterloo moment. Certainly for wokeness and the term, but also for its nasty corporate iterations of ESG and DEI and some of these other things.
Let me pick up, because on the first chapter, you get titles like Diabetes Exposed as Racist, Alzheimer's Disease is Racist, True. And then looking at the NAACP, National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, you touch on some of those, and it is very much a victim mentality. And yet what we have seen in this, I was looking at some of the results down on the Texas border, going from in 2016, Trump getting 20% of the vote in some of those areas, some of those counties, if that's what you call them, to this current election, him getting 60, 70%. And it's a huge change. And that victim mentality that you kind of mock, certainly the first chapter and further on, people seem to have seen through that, and they realize, actually, the color of my skin is one thing, but actually that's not what makes me as a person. I want the president who's going to do the best for me as a person, for my community, for my society. And it seems to have broken through, and it's fascinating, those numbers. And Trump seems to have connected in a way that maybe a Republican president has not connected before.
That's right. Well, here's the thing. So with my book, you've got 12 chapters, and I call them the 12 months of privilege. So each chapter is actually a month of the year. Chapter 11 is November, right? And then you don't have to start in January. You can jump around. You can start where you are. And then I go through entire calendar year, poking fun at the left, trolling the left, talking about, different historical events, different holidays that take place, in those months. As far as Trump goes, he has made the Republican Party more blue collar, more working class, and more multi-ethnic. So there's all this talk here in the United States about this blue wall. Is Trump going to knock down the blue wall like he knocked down in 2016? Now, the blue wall is my home state of Pennsylvania, and then the Great Lake region, right? So Michigan and Wisconsin. Right? And he knocked it down again. He knocked it down on Hillary. He knocked it down even more so this time. But as you just mentioned, there was a second blue wall. And the second blue wall goes from Brownsville, Texas to El Paso, and it goes along the Texas-Mexico border. Right? And these counties, like you just said, that dot this area, are not exactly filled with Scandinavians, okay? These were Democrat blue counties that have now flipped to Trump, because it turns out that Hispanics, Latin voters, Latin immigrants, the Democrats have made a fatal mistake. They have gone about importing millions of Catholic, people that never get divorced, never have an abortion, and they just escaped some Marxist dump. I don't care whether it's Venezuela or Ecuador, they're all dumps. In the old days, it used to just be the Cubans in South Florida. They were escaping Castro. They're all Catholic. They come to Miami, and they vote Republican. Marco Rubio's father, who London is going to be seeing shortly, not the father, but the son, Marco Rubio, who I know, is of Cuban descent, right? Ted Cruz, U.S. Senator from Texas, is of Cuban descent. So they grew up with this. But now, it turns out, see, George W. Bush, when we used to goof on him, George W. Bush used to say, family values don't stop at the Rio Grande. And I am not one to say very often lately that George W. Bush was right about something. But I'm going to tell you, Family values don't stop at the Rio Grande, and MAGA values don't stop at the Rio Grande either. And they are crossing. Turns out Mexican immigrants that go to Texas, they want to wear cowboy boots and a 10-gallon hat too. They want to be Texas too. So for all this talk, and I know this goofy international media that you have to be freaking spoon-fed every day, BBC World, CNN World, whatever the hell it is over there, Le Monde, and a Der Spiegel, whatever the hell it is, right? The Irish Times. I know they're always talking about, oh, this is the year. Texas is going to flip blue. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Ted Cruz is going to lose to some stiff. They roll out one of these stiffs every 6 years, and Ted Cruz gives them all a haircut, right? I don't even remember the name of this one he just beat. He beat Beto O'Rourke, Mr. Cultural Appropriator, a couple years ago, 6 years ago. My point is this. Trump didn't just make red states redder and win the Electoral College vote and win the popular vote this time, which a Republican has not done, might I say, since George W. Bush did it against Lurch, John Kerry, 20 years ago. He not only made red states redder, he made blue states redder. He made blue cities redder. We don't really have red states and blue states here in the United States. And I want, the international audience to understand this. We have a red country with blue cities in some places. And then I know this is given AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, heart palpitations. But even in her district, in New York City, there were people that went in and voted for her and voted for him. What? So, look, Democrats, keep screaming about this. Keep screaming about the patriarchy and the 1619 Project and all the rest of it. Keep sending dudes into the women's bathroom, and you're going to continue to lose. Because turns out, when I say bringing racial harmony to very fine people on both sides, Trump got the Jews in Pennsylvania and New York and New Jersey to vote the exact same way as the Muslims in Michigan and Minnesota. And this is post-October 7th. He got all these Hispanics, not just in Texas, but Nevada has flipped. Arizona, it was a healthy win. He got more African Americans than any president since Reagan and Eisenhower, Republican president since then. So, for all this time, the Democrats are like, oh, any minute the blacks are going to figure us out. Any minute they're going to leave the Republican Party. We need to find some new slavery mentality group of people to replace them with. See, look, the Democrat Party, unfortunately, party of the Kennedys, the party of Andrew Jackson, the party of really the first political dynasty in American history, with an exception of George Washington, who was a member of it was a Federalist. The first political dynasty in American history, 4 out of the first 5 presidents came from Virginia, and they were all Democrats except for Washington and Adams. So you got 3 of these guys who all live near each other, and Peter travels to the region. He knows what I'm talking about. So Jefferson, Madison, and Monroe, they're the founders of the Democrat Party. They're like the oldest political party in modern politics. And yet this party, the party of FDR, Truman, and John F. Kennedy, has become a bitter, coastal, really, really white, so white, like I call them, Peter, and I think I called them on your show before, the pumpkin spice mafia. These are the elite fart sniffing. They sniff their own farts. They love the smell of it. Coastal, really upper crust, people that are looking down their nose at, whether they're grape pickers or lettuce picker, Latins, or some African-American mechanic in Atlanta, or wherever the hell it is, Jacksonville. And Trump is an authentic guy. And that's really the thing about America, is that we have built ourselves on authenticity and meritocracy. And I think most people were looking at Kamala Harris and they were saying to themselves, this is not an authentic person. This is somebody that, talks about all the different groups she belongs to. I could make green curry, I can make red curry, I can make Penang curry, and I can make a samosa, and then I can make, Jamaican jerk chicken. I can do the jerk chicken. I drink Red Stripe beer, whatever the hell it is. I'm the first this and the first that. But, most Americans, and I think most people in the West in general, all just kind of want the same thing. They want their culture and their civilization defended. They want to be members of the middle class. Happy people have more children, so people are trying to find spouses, whoever the hell you want to go home with at night. Trump don't care. You think Trump cares about gay people? Trump could care less. Trump had the first gay cabinet member, my buddy Rick Grinnell, and now he just nominated a gay man who's married to another dude, who's our client here at Publius PR. He was the owner of All Seasons Press. All Seasons Press, who gave you Naomi Wolf's book, The Body of Others, Chadwick Moore's book, the biography of Tucker Carlson. Scott Besson owned that before he offloaded it to Tony Lyons at Skyhorse. So look, we work with both of them. But my point is, Trump doesn't care about some of that stuff. He's not going to sign some national abortion ban. So that's why you saw this crazy coalition come together. And, the Democrats were talking to each other. They had this small group of never Trumpers that I think they thought had some constituency. Liz Cheney lost her reelection bid by 45 percentage points. Her and her father are Wyoming people. And she got crushed. So, running around appearing with her or getting an endorsement from Arnold Schwarzenegger, it turns out Rambo was right and the Terminator was wrong. Okay? Stallone was right. Schwarzenegger was wrong. I saw Stallone was with Trump the other day.
He was in Mar-a-Lago. But let me ask, because it is, and looking at state by state, I think every single state went more red than the last time. The 7 swing states, huge move. Arizona being the biggest, despite that those counting officials in Arizona took 20 days to count votes. But I can't critique them because we've got a far left government. As much as I'd like to help them with a calculator, maybe we need to send calculators back to the US from the motherland. But the book is great because it is a snapshot of that woke madness that we have faced in 4 years. But the excitement that we have seen in the election is that the American dream is still real, that people travel to get into America because it is something. And that something is the American dream that Biden and Obama have tried their very best to destroy. Yet those who come over the border, legally or illegally, come because they believe there is something positive in the United States. And to me, that is something great that you can take from the election, that the American dream, although the last 4 years we've seen it being decimated and them doing their very level best to destroy, yet it is alive, and worldwide people see it as something positive. And I think that's the flip side of your book. On one side, you've tried to do a snapshot of the last 4 years, but the election shows actually what the reality is, that people want something different and something better for their lives.
That's right. And they don't want to be separated into these M&M colors and pitted against each other. I don't care whether it's because you're watching the NFL or, goofy commercials. I did a segment the other day on TV here, Fox News with Ingram, about this goofy Jaguar commercial. I don't know what's going on in England with this goofy Jaguar commercial, but I told Laura to pull it up. It was an ad from 10 years ago where Ben Kingsley and Tom Hiddleston and Mark Strong, it was like it's good to be bad ad, right? Where you have these British villains in this sort of James Bond type scenario. Masculinity, the Jaguar is masculine. It's a masculine car. We're bringing it back. Land Rover and Jaguar are back. They brought it back from Ford. And, you got this cool ad where Loki's in the helicopter and Mark Strong is in the and they all end up at Ben Kingsley's house, and it's crazy. It's one of the greatest ads ever, and it was Jaguar's Super Bowl ad, I believe, a decade ago. And in 10 years,
it's bad to be good.
Well, it's bad. It's bad to be dragged. It's good to be dragged now. So because Jaguar puts out this ad, there's no car in the ad, right? And it's just like a drag brunch on the moon. It's insane. It's all like androgynous weirdos, really crazy stuff. And it's like Jaguar is not reading the room. I mean, Budweiser, Harley Davidson, John Deere, and many others have gone through this here. So Jaguar is getting hammered. And that's because this election was kind of a referendum on all this talk about white privilege, all this talk about the patriarchy, DEI, ESG, wokeism, which is cultural Marxism. Now, we can get into where this stuff comes from, and I know we did last time I was on, but I want to go back to something you just said. So, Western civilization has had moments of horror and moments of triumph. The United States being part of that. It's, and I'm not here to drink my own Kool-Aid here as an American. But if you study it like, as a historian, if you look at the United States, for some reason, we have a unique ability to conjure up men and women at very specific moments to save us from ourselves, to save us from crazy shit. So whether it's a world war or slavery or, a sneak attack like on Pearl Harbor, whatever it is, we have this unique ability. It's almost like America is this sort of body, and there's sort of white blood cells that get conjured up, and they fly towards an infection. And because most of politics, even here, sort of and this is a football reference, American football, they sort of take place between the 40-yard lines where nobody ever really scores. The ball just kind of moves back and forth. There's stability in place, 3 branches of government, and so on. Like, George Washington couldn't get a commission. The British here would not promote him. So the British made it easier and easier and easier for him to take command of the Continental Army when the Revolutionary War broke out. And then even then, he's doing crazy stuff. He's riding around. He had his horse shot out from under him by a cannonball once. I mean, just crazy stuff that he survived and, other people wouldn't have. And, then having the ability, even George III, the British monarch's like, is he really, he's going to leave? Like he could make himself king now. And, is he just going to leave? And then he leaves and he stands for, we work on a government and he stands for election. And then after 8 years, he leaves, right? Something FDR didn't even do. We had to create an amendment to get these people out of here. And then, the Virginia dynasty comes and then we start over 24 years, we start to get stale. And Andrew Jackson shows up and he's a populist. Looks very similar to what's going on right now. And de Tocqueville is here and he's watching what's going on. He's saying, because Jackson is a Democrat, but you just had 24 years and with 4 years of John Quincy Adams, 28 years of the old guard. Jackson shows up and all hell breaks loose, right? He opens up the White House, which had just been rebuilt because the British burned it down, part of it. And he brings all the people in and they're riding horses through the White House. And there's gamblers and whores and all kinds of people running through the White House. It's interesting. So we had this unique ability to conjure these people up. Lincoln, Ulysses S. Grant, Teddy Roosevelt, FDR, Truman, Jack Kennedy, Reagan, and so on. When we need them. So Trump is not just a president now. Now, he's done something that only Grover Cleveland did, which was win, lose, and then win again. He's become an icon for the era. He's a counterculture icon. Not just because he's a politician, he's a president, but because of what has gone on here. You know, wokeism and globalism have been working overtime together, like this sort of evil Siamese twins, to bring Western civilization down a notch, to bring us to our knees through various movements. You know, it's not just the COVID overreach, it's the Me Too movement overreach. There's a lot of overreaching. Black Lives Matter. I mean, we could go on and on and on about it. Globalism in foreign capitals. You know, I mean, you've got this woman in Italy. You've got her for a reason, right? You got her for a reason. You had the Brexit movement for a reason. It turns out most Europeans don't really want to listen to what Berlin and Paris say all the time, right? Imagine that. You know, Canada only exists because at a meeting in Paris, Franklin, John Jay, and John Adams, Ben Franklin, were negotiating with the British, and we wanted all of it. We were going to take all of it. And the only reason Canada is not part of the United States is because Franklin and Jay had to allow John Adams to negotiate fishing rights off the coast of Newfoundland, right, and Maine, because at the time, Maine was part of Massachusetts and so on. So, look, Canada exists. Canada is way wackier than even the United States with some of this stuff. In some ways, they're wackier than even the UK on some things. So, look, we're all a work in progress, but Trump is the antibodies pushing back against wokeism and globalism. And may I just say this? The Woking Dead and the White Privilege album are Volume 1, Volume 2. I am working on Volume 3. And I'm about halfway done it. So I got the halfway point watching what's going on here. And let me just say this. Cultural Marxism has been around 100 years. It is alive and well in a lot of the capitals of Europe still. And the word woke may go away, and some of these corporate DEI programs may go away. And every once in a while, you can have a goofy, wacko company like Jaguar put out a car ad like they did. But understand this. They will burrow in. They're like an STD with like a herpes flare-up, okay? Like a fever blister, right? They will pop up like shingles. It will pop up. They're licking their wounds. They're gonna go dormant. There are some sane people in the Democrat Party here, or on the left, comedians like Bill Maher. Look, Joe Rogan endorsed Bernie Sanders and voted for him. You have lost him. How did you do that? I mean, Bernie Sanders knows. He's out there giving his postmortem. Most of the shit coming out of his mouth is 100% accurate, right? So there are some other people, some Congress people that are saying, like this guy Seth Moulton in Massachusetts, he has said, look, maybe we should, get back to basics and go talk to the Plumbers Union of Philadelphia. Go talk to the United Auto Workers Union. Go talk to the service industry people in Las Vegas. You know how Trump won Nevada? He won Nevada by telling Nevadans that mostly service industry, and they have a very left-wing union, the Service Employees International Union, the SEIU. These people work in the casinos. They work in all the resorts. No tax on tips. There's an idea, right? The left has no ideas. Kamala tried to steal that one. Didn't work. But look, the woke is not, they may stop calling themselves that, but something woke and wicked this way comes. They will be back. They're licking their wounds. I'm over the target. Okay? I'm over the target. My next book will be pretty much about how they didn't learn their lesson of what just happened.
Well, I want to let's pick up on that and see where the left go. And let me make just a point. Andrew Jackson, his father, born in Carrickfergus, where I was born and
That's
grew
right.
up. I don't know if that makes me eligible for high office in the US, but who knows? Been to his homestead many times out in Carrickfergus in Northern Ireland. But the left, what they get, and you mentioned Joe Rogan, and the left wish they had a Joe Rogan. They had him.
They
They
had him.
screwed up so badly. They
They
had
had him.
him. But with everyone else, with Gavin Newsom doubling down and truly destroying the once beautiful state of
Oh,
California, with Kamala Harris actually thinking spending 2 billion and losing is a great
oh my
result and
God.
not getting it, and whether she will still run for 2028, whether Hillary will run 2028. I mean, they don't seem to get it. At least I think on our side, on the right, you have a defeat, you sit back and you try and assess it. That's what any normal, sane human being does. You
Right.
assess a defeat so you can go into battle next and you can win. The left just seem to be trumping out the same old crap. And what are your thoughts on, and that's not even touching on the whole media side of the whole collapse and panic, that actually they may have Joe Rogan or Alex Jones actually hosting for Rachel Maddow. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? But in terms of that
Only in my
meltdown,
dreams will that happen. Oh
but
God.
tell me that the left don't seem to learn. They seem to be doubling down, which is great for us. If they're in opposition, doubling down on utter stupidity, then that's wonderful for MAGA reigning, as Bannon says, supreme for the next 50 years, as he puts it. Who
Sure.
knows? But what are your thoughts on the left learning this from this defeat?
No. Well, look. There are some that can see it. They were the same people that told him not to act like this to begin with, though. I mean, Bill Maher and some of these characters, right? Dave Chappelle, and there's others. There's comedians and podcasters. I mean, the Democrat Party lost the oldest male heir to the Kennedy family. They lost him. He's the oldest from that group because John Jr. is dead, died in a plane crash. And they lost him, the heir to the throne. Like if this was Game of Thrones, if this was, the Plantagenets. I mean, if there's ways that if this was some other universe, RFK Jr. would be the king of Camelot, right? Of the Kennedy
I was
family.
hoping Hunter Biden would be the heir to the throne, but hey.
He's heir to the throne, flushing drugs down the throat. Anyway, but I'm saying we traded them, Liz Cheney and the Never Trumpers and Jonah Goldberg and Bill Kristol and Adam Kinzinger. And in return, we got, talk about ripping off a team. We got RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard, Elon Musk, and Naomi Wolf in return. We traded garbage and we got gold in return. Okay? We got gold in return. And Trump has remade what the Republican Party kind of looks like now. And they need to preserve it. No more going back to the Chamber of Commerce and the unchecked trade, unchecked immigration. It's a big fat loser. Big fat loser. So, no, I don't think they're going to learn from it. A lot of what they do here, Peter, and this is them, they're on TV right now doing this. Is it, I mean, I saw Brian Williams. He gets it. He's the former NBC News anchor. Went on Seth Meyers, one of these losers here on at night that is supposed to be funny but isn't. And he ripped them. A lot of times what the Democrats do when they lose big time like this is that they never go big and try to do it, an autopsy and remove their cancerous organs or cancerous policies. It's always, well, we didn't package our ideas right. It's always the optics. It's always our media strategy was wrong. We didn't explain how wonderful communism is. It's like the old days. They used to say communism would have worked if it wasn't, if it was tried properly, it would work. It would have worked, liberal derangement syndrome would work if the Republicans would get out of the way. If these pesky things called voters would get out of the way. Sure. And if they don't get out of the way, you kill them all, like Ho Chi Minh and Mao Zedong and the Castro boys, right? Like the Bolsheviks, right? Like the Jacobins. So they never learn the right lessons. It's always, either what we're hearing mostly is we didn't package her right. This is the most unlikable woman. This woman, Kamala Harris, who couldn't find a husband till last week. The face of masculinity, too, by the way. She was more unlikable than the most unlikable woman in 100 years, Hillary Clinton. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? So it's either she didn't package it right, she didn't package the ideas right. The media was against us. I've heard some of that recently. The media didn't ask the right questions, or it's either that. It's never I suck, and they do suck, or it's well. And you know where I'm going next. Here it comes. These Latin Americans are racist, sexist, homophobic. All these black males that voted for Trump, they don't want to listen to a woman president. It's always misogyny, sexism, Catholic males like Trump because he's like a dictator. He's like El Duce. He's like, whatever the hell he is, right? He's got machismo. He reminds them of the dictators of Latin America. Oh, okay. Right. That's why they all are trying to escape the hellholes of Latin and Central America and South America. So it's just nuts. It's nuts. That's their lessons, the two lessons. We didn't package our communism right. The optics were all wrong. We need a better packaging like Obama, right? The empty suit. Or it's the whole country's racist and sexist and homophobic, right? It's one or the other. It's never, how the hell did we lose the working class voters? Do the cattle, corn, and coal industry, the lumberjacks, the longshoremen, the oyster fishermen in the Gulf of Mexico, the grape pickers in California, the orange pickers in Florida, the cherry pickers in Michigan, blueberry farms, cranberry farms, fracking in Pennsylvania, fracking in Ohio. Why do the people that work at the casino on the Vegas Strip, why did we lose all of these different types of people that work with their freaking hands? It's never our ideas suck. Do you think every group I just said wants the Green New Deal? I don't think so. So how racist are all these different groups? And then the media, Peter, come up with these crazy terms. I love this term. It's called white adjacent. White adjacent. These Asian people, they're all going to Harvard and Yale and Princeton. They're using rules that were for black people, and all these Asian people are taking up all the slots, and they can master the test. See, they can't say that these are special rules for only one type of minority, right? So if you're the wrong type of minority and you're using the rules that the left created for supposedly the right type of minority, you're white adjacent. Asian people, they're almost white. Latin people, they're almost white. The Jews are finally white. A lot of Jewish voters decided to finally stop voting for their own beheading.
Yeah.
Right? And now all these African-American males are all white adjacent. I mean, that's going to be news to them. Right? So look, Barack Obama, who was the second black president, because the first black president was a chubby white guy from Arkansas. So Barack Obama goes to Pittsburgh and he starts talking down to this room full of brothers. And he walks in there and he goes, "Hey, brothers, I hear you're uncomfortable voting for a woman, but she's from the neighborhood." Now, Kamala told us she's from a middle-class family. Now, Barack's telling this group of black dudes, Steelers fans in Pittsburgh, that she's from the neighborhood. Now, I remember when she went after Biden because she was from a forced busing neighborhood. But she also was born in a middle-class family, raised in a middle-class family. Yeah, the neighborhood of Marin County, the neighborhood of McGill University's fancy section of Toronto, wherever the hell it is. So, look, it's a lie. There's no authenticity there. And look, black people, and I'm from Philadelphia. I grew up on the playground. They like authenticity, and they don't have amnesia. So if Barack Obama is using the soft bigotry of low expectations, talking to this group of people saying, you need to vote your skin color. She's from the neighborhood. She's got melanin in her skin. You have to vote for her melanin. It's insane. They're kind of like, whoa, homie, what? First of all, what did you do we voted for you twice. What did you do exactly? Except fundraise for your library and then buy houses with all the money you made, Netflix deals and everything. Barack Obama lives in the 3 whitest zip codes in America. Okay? He's not living in the neighborhood. Okay? Believe me, he's not. Right? So, and COVID, COVID scrambled the 2020 election. I'm not here to, try to figure out where all those votes Biden went. Which zip drive are they on? So my point is, people don't have amnesia. They remember what it was like in Trump's first term until COVID showed up, till the Chinese, who were losing a trade war, put a bunch of people with COVID on airplanes and sent them around the world like Trojan horses. Maybe African Americans want the same thing as everyone else. Did that ever occur to you, Democrats? Maybe they don't like $9 eggs. Maybe they don't like the Green New Deal. Maybe they don't want the police to fund it. Maybe they don't want the entire third world redistributed to their neighborhood. Maybe they don't want a dude in their black daughter's bathroom. Just a thought.
AJ, I appreciate you coming on. Let me just bring up the book that people can get, and we had the White Privilege album, and is a great snapshot of the madness, the chaos, not only the US but the world has faced in terms of identity politics, and in terms of deciding that the color of your skin defines who you are, instead of being a human being and wanting the same aspirations across the board. So great book, and following on from The Walking Dead. So thank you so much, AJ, for joining us, for giving us your thoughts, certainly just past the election. And I look forward to the next book's going to be more difficult to write in terms of where we find ourselves, which is not in a crazy woke ideology, I'm hoping and praying. But yeah, looking at the collapse of the left, I guess, is a story that needs to be written.
Sure. We'll see. They're going to burrow in. They will reemerge. I just want you and your audience to have a merry White Privilege album Christmas. Get volume 1, volume 2. If you've got any blue-haired nieces or nephews coming in for the holidays, and you're looking to make their heads explode, get The Walking Dead in paperback, get the White Privilege album. And look, I want the audience to always remember, Peter brings you voices here from, North America. Peter is a patriot, is an important voice. Definitely share this show with everyone out there. And look, have a Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.